Hi there, welcome to my channel. It is the Gaming Warrior. How are you guys doing? This is my first official video on this channel. I'm so excited to be doing it. Today's topic, which I've been asked quite a lot of, which Nintendo Switch is the best console? So now, as people may not know, there are three models of the Nintendo Switch. So you have the original Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo Switch Lite, and then you've got the Nintendo Switch OLED edition. Originally I was going to make a video explaining the different specs of each three switches, and then I thought it seemed a bit too complicated for myself to get into, so instead what I'm going to do is my honest opinion of the switches, and I'm going to leave the direct specs of each switch from the Nintendo website in the description below. Now, everything that I'm going to say in this video is going to be my own opinion. I mean, there may be some facts thrown in there about the console specifics, but other than that, this channel is going to always be my opinion, never going to be laying the laws down. And I'd also like to hear your kind of opinions as well. So back then it was released, or announced, sorry, that Nintendo was going to do a Nintendo Switch console. Now all game stores in the UK, especially local ones around mine, were saying that they wouldn't recommend purchasing the Switch or even pre-ordering the Switch, as at the time it wasn't available to purchase. Like, you had to be registered on a list to even acquire a Switch. They were saying that they didn't know that the Nintendo Switch was going to be a product that would flop in a couple of years time, or even not even sell off the shelves. So before we even dive into the Switches itself, we have to appreciate where it's come from. Obviously Nintendo put out this device to compete with the 2013 Xbox One, and obviously the PlayStation 4 as well, and it's done quite well for itself. It is, I think, one of the biggest selling consoles probably going, and it's actually a decent handheld. So obviously this got released back in 2017. As I previously mentioned, you had to be actually signed onto like a register or put your name forward to actually pre-order a copy or a console, because it wasn't available to buy in the store like it is today. This is my the original Switch. So people don't know, you've got the Joy-Cons like that, and obviously the whole point of the Switch is, if you press, no, wrong button. If you press the button behind the back of the Joy-Con, it slides out, and vice versa on the other side, and literally just slides back in. So yeah, so there's buttons there and there on each side of the Joy-Con. And the console itself was meant to is designed to make your gaming experience better, or a different experience altogether. Hence why I said, you know, it was running against the Xbox and the PlayStation at the time. I personally like, so I've had, out of all the three Switches, I've had two consoles. I've had the Nintendo Switch, and we also got a Lite. We won it in a raffle. Now I really do want to get the OLED, only because it's a more powerful console. As I was saying, the main reason why I wanted the OLED Switch is because it does support 4K 60 frames per second when suited in the dock, compared to the original Nintendo Switch as well as the Lite. In my opinion, if you had to choose one out of the three consoles, which is the best one? If I didn't already have a Switch, I would go with the OLED, and as I say, I am planning to buy an OLED in due time. So the reason why I'm going with the OLED is quite a few reasons. So let's go back to my Switch. Let's go back to the original Switch. Now, when this got announced, as I said, I mentioned it was meant to improve your gaming experience. And the way I mean that, in case people don't know, you could either hold it as a handheld form in a tablet. You can take the Joy-Cons off and have the screen actually on a desktop, and you can have you and your mate play at a desktop kind of mode. And then the best mode, which I love, is the dock mode. So you put the Switch in the dock, you connect the dock to your television, and then you can either use accessories, like either external controllers, or there's actually accessories where you can slide in your two Joy-Cons into like a controller pad, and then you act like a controller, and you could play your Switch on the TV. So that's the reason why I loved the original Switch idea, and I was definitely on board because I struggled to play with handheld games and stuff like that. I'm not really a fan. The only one I did fall in love with was my original Game Boy Advance back in the day, and then I upgraded to an SP, only because of two reasons. One, it was a flip, so it kind of protected the screen in some way, and the second of all, there was a backlight. Now I know back in the day you could have bought a pen with a light on it for the original Game Boy Advance, but I was so young I didn't know too much about all this kind of gadgets, so it never was purchased for me as a child. So that's where I stand on that. Now, another reason why I would go for the OLED, bigger screen, as I mentioned before. It does do 4K only in the dock mode though, so I guess out of the dock it'll do 1080, probably the highest performance. So with the day one Switch, there was some issues as such. So let's read the stats here. So the original Switch day one, when it was pre-ordered, ran the battery life in it was a 2.5 to 6.5 hours, which seemed like it didn't really run to the 6 hours. It always felt like around 2 to 4, and that's when the battery died. Now I did purchase an accessory, which is this. You slide the Switch inside it, so you can't use it on a dock, but you can charge it up. You can't really see, but there is some plugs in there. You can charge this up, and essentially, yes, it's an external battery charger. Car journeys, etc, etc. Honestly, the day one edition Switch doesn't last that long, and it doesn't feel like that. That's why I bought that. They have released the Gen 2 Switch. Literally, it's the same model. All they've done is put a better battery in it. And as I say, if you're starting off, then fine. Maybe that would be the best Switch for yourself. I would still recommend buying the accessory charge kit, even if you had that new Switch anyway, just because you've got extra battery, extra life, and again, it depends who you are as well, which comes on to my next conversation topic, the Switch Lite. I just switch up for longer, but I only bought that accessory because I had the day one Switch, so like we'll call it Jan 1, when it was in the pre-order stage in 2017, because I remember buying it around that time. Then Nintendo released another console. It was the same model, it was the same thing, like it was, the serial number was different, but it was still the original Switch. But in this original Switch, they included a battery that lasted from 4.5 to 9 hours of play. So you can see already, it's quite a big jump from the day one Gen 1 Switch. We'll call this one the Gen 2, because obviously the difference in play times, or battery life, sorry, is a big difference. Especially if there's quite some negatives. I mean, the main reason why people like it is possibly because the Switch is smaller, and compared to the Switch Lite, sorry, it's smaller, and compared to this, people complained about the Joy-Cons when in tablet mode. They felt a bit flimsy, and the console itself was a bit heavy. Personally, I think the original base console itself is fine. I had no issues with the weight or heaviness of it, but with the accessory dock that I mentioned about, potentially that's when it started getting a bit heavy for your arms. So potentially people wanted the Switch Lite for the lightness of the console, as well as the Joy-Cons not able to be coming apart. So as I mentioned there, yes, you did hear right. There's no Joy-Cons to come off the console like the original Switch. Now you're thinking, probably like I'm thinking as well, why would Nintendo make a product called Nintendo Switch Lite, but it can't switch the Joy-Con? That's the whole point for me. That's what sold me the console, switching out the Joy-Cons, choosing what mode of experience you wanted to play from it. So now this Switch Lite was literally a handheld console which people loved. I don't like it. Mainly for that one reason. The name itself, a bit of a silly reason, the name itself, don't understand why it's called a Switch Lite if it doesn't switch. What do I know? But on that though, the battery life of Nintendo Switch Lite is 3 to 7 hours, so it's still less than the original Switch, and even the day one Switch, it's still less. So yeah, there's always things to consider. I don't believe the screen's bigger. I believe it's kind of roughly the same size, or maybe like a tiny bit bigger, but not much of an improvement. But then the negatives fly in. So, because they had a Switch Lite, the original Switch, I'm going to throw out a game that I hate to play, but my missus loves it. It's called Animal Crossing. In Animal Crossing you can fish and you can chop down trees, and inside the original Switch there was rumble effects in the Joy-Cons, so you knew what kind of pressure to hit something or time the fishing to yank the fish out the pond. Now in the Switch Lite you don't have them features, that's been removed, and obviously for the lightness of it and the small compact of it, so that's been removed, and alternatively it can impact you in games, I suppose. Like my missus, she hates it for that reason. The reason why I hate the Switch Lite as well is because I thought it would be pretty cool to test it out. When my missus had the Switch Lite, I was like, oh, why don't you play on your Switch console and we'll play 2-player and we'll hook up my Joy-Cons to your console. You're probably thinking, why didn't I just do 2 different screens? Why did I not play on my Switch, you play on her Switch? Or something like that, which is a fair comment. I just thought because it already had built-in, because the Switch doesn't have any Joy-Cons and it was just there, I thought I could just hook up my my Joy-Cons to it and theoretically work like a third person or 2-player. So like I say, I thought we could take off both Joy-Cons on there and connect them to the Switch Lite, so then if you had 3 people to play all round to your house, you could play 3 players on the Switch Lite. Now, as the problem with this is it recognises the Joy-Cons, but as the Switch Lite doesn't have any external Joy-Cons to come off, it actually deactivates the functions of the Switch Lite's console. So theoretically speaking, it recognises the Joy-Cons, and then you turn your Switch Lite into a monitor and you can't actually use it to game. You have to use then the Joy-Cons here, so actually you don't gain any ability from doing so. Now these are small minor reasons, but then there's a 4th one that they slide in and don't make it that clear. So with the Switch Lite as well, there are some games that you cannot use, and they don't make that bluntly either to you. I was experimenting one day when we had the Switch Lite in lockdown days, and I just come across my games because for some reason I didn't realise as well, this comes onto the Nintendo side, that Nintendo added a £20 online game pass, a bit like the Xbox and PlayStation. But when I had this originally back in 2017 on my Switch, I remember playing on Mario Kart without this license. So they've only just literally imported this license onto the console now, so you have to pay it online, which is a bit shit when it never actually originally had it. But I can see that some companies obviously want to make the extra money. So that's another reason as well. I'll add that to the list. And then going back to the game, so yes, I was testing out some games, and it actually says on the back of games, I believe the back of the game case or either the box of the Switch, but in very small print, so you couldn't actually make it out. The console actually couldn't play any games. I know how we tested it out. We had Mario Party, and I was just wondering, like, how do we play that if you don't on your Switch if you don't have the Joy-Cons? We then did some research on Google here and there, and yes, it does specifically state that the Nintendo Switch Lite cannot actually play all Nintendo Switch games, which then also surely impacts the user, because there's probably quite a lot of games that need or require the things to come out. And alternatively as well, the Nintendo Switch Lite console doesn't go on a dock and you can't actually play it on the TV, so it's just literally a handheld console. So there's quite a lot of factors to think about. Do you want to spend quite a lot of money on the Nintendo Switch Lite, or would you rather pay the extra either for a 4K OLED Switch, which does the same thing, bigger screen, better battery, and the Joy-Cons do come off and you can use it like the normal Switch, but just 4K and stuff like that? Or would you go for the base set Switch, which is literally just 1080p, either 30 to 60 frames per second, and go from there? So that's my little grumble and my little thing. So just to recap, on the 3 Switches, I would rank the OLED first. Never use an OLED, but I'd rank it first just because of the performance and what it develops and what it provides. The second, I would rank the original Switch, just because it started it off and I wanted a different gaming experience, and it provided that 3-in-1 experience, which I love so much. And then the Switch Lite, for me, I find it a waste to be a handheld console only and be limited quite a lot on different functions and mainly games. So that's where I stand on it, and that's just my opinions coming to you guys, and I just thought I'd clarify what they are, and hopefully this helps anyone that's new to buying a Switch, or wanted to buy a Switch a bit more light, have some more light of detail on all 3 consoles. Again, all specifics detail of the consoles, including the size of the screen, the battery lives, processors, and much more depth into it. I will link in the description that the Nintendo website actually put on there. And also, other than that, you have to think as well buying a Nintendo Switch going into the future. Nintendo are thinking, or there are rumours that they are thinking to make another console, either a Nintendo Switch Pro or maybe a new console altogether. So, I mean, it could be like the Nintendo Wii U scenario where they made so many copies but it was a flop. Nintendo Wii was superior, so maybe it could be the same thing. I'm not sure, but it's always best to keep your mind open and do the research. But it's been your boy, the Gaming Warrior. So I'm glad that you enjoyed. If you did, if you didn't, then oh well, sorry. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new, please subscribe. There's more gaming videos, content, and other stuff coming. And if you would like to leave any comments below to say your opinions or what you would recommend, or even help me out, because as I say, I have the original Switch with the Day 1 edition battery. I'm using this to charge, help get extra charge. Maybe there's some accessories or even tips you can give to myself on how I can improve my experience, and much will be grateful. And thank you for watching. See you next one.